It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. All right, how's everybody doing? We got Peter Lawrence with us today.
Hey.
Al Stahura.
Hello.
And Chad Judner.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Chad. I'm Kyle Bacher. Today we're going to talk about how we got where we're at. And so I think the first thing we need to do is figure out where we're at. So I'm going to ask each of you, what do you do for a living?
Can we go with fake meetup job titles?
Not really job titles, just kind of like if somebody said, what do you do for a living? Yeah. What do you do for a living? I'll put Elle on the spot first.
I will say I'm a data developer, data engineer, and then when I get a blank stare back, I say I work with data in computers.
Excellent.
Did they know data is plural?
No.
What's a data?
No, yeah, that's the other set of weird looks when I say the data are looking great.
I hate that, by the way.
What about you, Peter?
I say I'm a computer programmer because that tends to pretty much answer the question for most average people and let them know that they don't need to go any further than that. And for the ones that want to go further than that, we can have a conversation. But yeah, usually it's computer programmer. Oh, okay. Chad, you're next. What do you do? What do you do to the outside world?
I am a consultant. That's the nice thing about SDG is we all have this exact same title, right? That was one of the selling points for me is that we are all consultants. There's no senior consultant. There's no junior consultant. It's just consultant. And specifically, I do Java development. So, well, I should be doing Java development, but that also encompasses a lot of things. I am a technical architect, a solution architect, a occasional project manager, occasional scrum master. No, I'm not going to say scrum master because no. But
do you really tell the checkout person at the grocery store that asked you that? Do they get that whole spiel every time?
No, Carla already knows what I do. She doesn't have to ask anymore. I usually just say these days that I am a consultant.
Consultant works. That's the best answer for government forms for sure.
Yeah.
What do you do? Consultant.
When I was a consultant, I would tell people I'm an IT consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I work in tech.
And what do you say now that you've been
I
promoted?
say now I'm the company's computer guy, even though I'm more than just the computer guy. Like I am, like most of the responsibilities of the SDG IT department is me. So I'm the admin for a lot of our stuff, and responsible for, working with vendors and accounts and service management, because a lot of our stuff's in the cloud now. So it went from sysadmin to service admin. And I work with a lot of different systems. So my title is IT systems engineer.
Wow.
It sounds like something.
You need a different hat.
Yeah, I need
That's not an engineer hat.
I feel like there should be more apparatus on my hat. Like there should be
You need flair.
Gizmos, gadgets. Yeah, pieces of flair. So sometimes I'm tech support. I'm procurement. I'm hand out the computers, loaners, that kind of stuff. Manage all of our equipment. Yes. I do low code solutions, process automation, stuff like that, like our new hire paperwork and all that, taking all that wireless or no paperless. So really it's, what am I working on right now? Single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, stuff like that. But if I was just going to explain it to people, I'm the IT guy. Sometimes I go as far as to say I'm the IT department, but I don't do every single IT thing we do.
No.
Just most of it.
So for myself, I'm just thinking back, like my job description has gotten so much more difficult as the years go on. Like it used to be fairly simple. Like I'm a programmer, I program on this language, on this computer. Now I do so many different things. And part of that is experience. But do you guys notice that at all? Like the world of software engineering has gotten far more complicated.
Yeah, I think in terms of titles and workplace organization, there's added complexity than there might have been in the past. There's also, at least in my experience, just as much just as many differences in what titles are between companies as there are even within a company. So that there's also juggling that. And which is why in my position, I'll just say like data developer, data consultant, just let's leave it there because, okay, are we talking, I'm an ETL developer, I'm a business intelligence analyst, I'm a Python developer. So you just, there's so many different hats that tend to be more indicative of the company that you're at than may fully represent what your skills are.
That's true.
Given this complex world and our complex jobs, how do we get here? What was your path? Because the more people I talk to, the more diverse the paths to these types of positions seem.
It's always linear. It's always a
It's
very
like,
clear path.
Just you did this, you worked here, then you did that, and you got this education. And once you had this, then you were put on the conveyor belt that led right to your job. And it's the same every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad, is that what happened for you?
No, I read a book. I read a book. I got into it.
Was it Harry Potter?
What's it? No, gosh, no. I started before Harry Potter. But no, I didn't go to school for what I do. I didn't train in what I do. I got very lucky in the mid 90s and got a job at a small software company in Plymouth, Minnesota. And once you're in, once you find your first gig, you start meeting people. And if you're a pleasant person to be around, you find that other people want to bring you onto whatever. So that's all it was for me. I was working at Mystic Lake Casino as a casino employee prior to my career in software development and consulting. Go ahead.
Was it a stumble? Was it were you trying to get into the small company in Plymouth? Or did somebody walk by and point to you in a crowd and say, Chad, come with me. You're doing cool things.
You know how to count cards, so that means you'll very easily understand sort algorithms.
Yes, card counting and bubble sort are basic. No, it was just we knew a friend of the family was part of the company and brought my brother on and then brought me on, and that's basically how it started. Really.
And if you had other siblings, they'd be there too?
I do have another sibling.
Oh, did they make it?
Not, no.
Oh.
No, but it was, it is, that's I spent a couple of years doing, well, in the mid 90s, I was basically essentially a bit of what Kyle does, and then Unix, Linux administration, and got good enough at that I picked up development, and then moved into consulting almost immediately. We were, yeah, I was able to ride the .com boom a little back when that was cool,
Yeah.
and survived the bust and the reblossoming. So that's what worked for me. How did you do, what happened, Elle? How did you get here?
Well, I want to ask first. I'm in a previous, like an earlier episode, you mentioned that one of the things that you really like about your job is being able to work with your friends.
Yes.
Is that what has kept you in this particular field, or why stay in tech for you?
And it's two things. Honestly, part of it is golden handcuffs. A career change for me right now would be an abrupt financial adjustment for my family, and I would prefer to avoid that. But yes, working with my friends is probably the most important thing for me, right? Like, and not just, I came to STG because of friends, and then, being put on, I don't know yet because I'm still relatively fresh faced. I don't know what cadence the project churn is, as I go from one project to the next, but
it's faster than
don't
what you're
either.
dealing with.
yeah, it's a little quicker than this project, but I've already made a couple of close friends on this project, and I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to do the same on future projects. So yeah, it was the social aspect of consulting in particular, maybe not so much IT, but consulting is a huge draw for me, and it's going to keep me here for as long as you folks will have me. All right, your turn, Elle. What the hell? What the heck happened?
So my background is in psychology and psychiatric research.
That's why. Yeah.
So this is just like one long case study. Like that's been my ulterior motive now. So I worked for several years in psychiatric research, and that involved everything from collecting MRIs, collecting EEGs, doing clinical interviewing, supporting grad students with getting data together for their thesis analysis, things like that. And I stumbled into tech and more primarily data focused as opposed to more using data for psychological ends, I suppose. Very accidentally. There were just some projects that showed up in one of the labs I was working in that gave me opportunities to let's play with MySQL. Let's do a big migration from handwritten notes and Excel spreadsheets into a database. And I enjoy organization. I enjoy finding the meaning in the chaos. And so that was just a new opportunity to do that. And it was so much fun that I didn't really want to go back to the other work that I'd been doing. And so I just followed my curiosity through a series of jobs that kind of took me further and further back into the tech stack. So going from, okay, now I'm doing report development to now I'm doing SQL statistical analysis, and now I'm doing database admin stuff, and now I'm doing ETL work, and then kind of coming back from there to see, okay, then how are we going to be integrating all this data with our applications or with different third parties. And that's just been really fun. So I've just gone kind of from job to job ever since working in those labs, trying to learn something or go deeper into data itself and tech, because thus far, I haven't run out of things to learn, and I'm not good when I'm bored. So this is a really good job for me to keep my sanity, but also just to keep like, okay, what's the bigger picture from here? What's the bigger picture from here? And just growing a body of knowledge and playtime.
And they keep inventing things and newer ways to do things, to do the same thing over and over. And
that's just it. Like sometimes here's a really cool new thing that is solving a problem we've been having for forever. And other times it's, well, this is the same thing. You're just calling it different names.
yeah,
That gets me. Yeah. And I think we might be a little opposite on our interest in picking up and learning. I don't want to say I'm bored with it because that has a lot of negative connotations. More and maybe grumpy about, I don't know. I mean, yes, we have to stay sharp as consultants. But it is always the same problems, right? Like you said, I mean, SQL's SQL, and it's been SQL since whenever, right? It doesn't really change. People just keep calling it different things, and we keep inventing new words and phrases and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. What do you think, Peter? Because you and I have probably seen, and I mean, not to leave Kyle out, but as developers, the ecosystem that we work with has evolved multiple times in our career, right?
Going from B trees to all the way up to databases and everything else, right?
Yeah, but essentially we are always still doing the same thing, right? Oh, you've got data here, you want to see it over here, or you want these two things to talk to each other and figure that out. And whether you're doing it with on-prem servers or cloud servers or whatever new weird thing they come up with next, it's always...
It sounds very boring when you just say, I'm moving data from one spot to another spot.
Yeah.
But the reality is that
That's
somebody's taking that data and doing cool things with it and trying to stretch that data and make it their own and twist and spin and things like that, and maybe capture the data in different ways. Before the internet, you were capturing data from people locally onto a disk. Maybe they were mailing that in with the old postal service networking and lots of fun things like that. But yeah, it's really all about doing most of the same stuff. When we worked I worked packing up boxes at a warehouse. There was nothing saying that we couldn't use paper to keep track of everything. But it sure made it a lot easier to write reports if you were using a computer to store those things, right? Yeah. And then the reports got pretty, right? And then the reports got colors, and then they got bars, and then they got pictures. But really, it's still about the same, tracking how many widgets get shipped out of the factory and onto the customer, right? So,
yeah.
Which is why some of the, when we're at clients and we're, starting either a new project or coming in for a new phase of development or something, like I personally find it a lot of fun to sit in on and participate in okay, we've got the architect in the room, we've got the product owner in the room, we've got some developers, like we're continuing to kind of do more of the same thing, but why are we doing this version of the same thing? Yeah. And why is it important that, to use your example, Peter, like the reports be pretty? Like, is that necessary? Maybe not, but why are we choosing to spend hours?
I don't think you can take it all the way back. I mean, yeah, you can say we're doing it the same way, the same things. We're painting pixels, we're moving data around, sending signals, all that kind of stuff. But that's like saying that humans all operate this, like all these situations we're in and all these complexities. It's like, well, all you're doing is moving your body and making sounds.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
and running into each other. It's always the same. Just people like flapping their lips and eating and sleeping and,
Just a bunch of atoms running into each other all the time.
yeah.
That's right.
All you are is matter and energy floating around the universe. It's always the same. Yeah, I think that the complexity and the ways we do these things has grown, and our dependence on them and what it's replaced. The computers are down in a restaurant means way, way more things now than it did when that wheel was still there and there were some pads of order paper laying around and you're on your new POS system. It's like, well, we can go right back to that because we're all used to it. We remember that. And while, yes, some people do still carry a stack of papers around with them in the office, and everything's got to be printed out. It's not, yeah, it's not as complex. Some things have been simplified. It's some of these things that we use and do. It's like, will that ever be a black box? Will it ever be like just an appliance that you plug in and just use?
When can I get my tea out of the wall?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. When can I walk up to the wall and say Earl Grey hot, and it just shows up, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So
I'm shocked that they didn't come up with a better tea by that time, but I understand.
what was your path, Peter, to get to become a computer programmer, developer?
Yeah, it's really sad because I went like the traditional route. I just went to college.
It's not sad.
It makes me weep every
It's
time I
not
hear
as
this
cool
story.
as your guys' back. My backstory is like, oh, he did exactly what you think about when you think about a computer programmer. He went to school for programming. He got a job doing programming and then a different job doing programming and another job doing programming. Now, just like Chad, I made some great friends along the way. We'll call it an internship that I had way back in college led me to, after my first real job that was got by some other friends that I knew, like, oh, call this recruiter up and they will get you a job. And I did, and they did. And it was like one day of interviewing, and it was so sadly easy that, it almost makes me cry to think about how hard I've worked to get a job in the past. And like, I just sort of fell over and like, oh, here's a job for you. Cool. But, a friend of a friend got a job. Then the other friend from my internship was working down in the cities at a consulting company and said, hey, you want to come work for us? And I said, hey, that sounds cool. And it was. And so I consulted through the .com fun, and then things got a little bit scary. So I said, I'm going to go back to that big corporation that has been around for hundreds of years and go back to work for them for a while. And I did that. And then, some friends that were at the other consulting company came to this consulting company and they said, hey, you want to come and help us? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun again. It looks really fun. And so I did. And I've been here ever since.
So when you, I would say, like, came back to consulting,
Mm-hmm.
in theory, you could have said, cool, I'm going to keep consulting. I'm going to be a developer, straight developer for the rest of my career. This is the best job ever. I don't ever want to stop. But we know that that's not what happened. That you still do development, but I think, like Chad, you also play tech architect, solution architect.
Yes.
Some degree of project management and people management.
Yes. As little as possible, but yes.
Why do that instead of, and I'll just, in heavy quotes, just stay a developer?
Well, because, part of the reason, like, and I don't I think we've talked about this before, but I got to interview two of the people on this podcast and help bring them to STG, surprisingly, which was fun. And it's awesome, right? Like, you guys are still here. It's super fun to work with you. You're super smart people. Chad, you're super smart, I'm sure, too. I didn't get to interview you, but I'm sure I would have interviewed you and had you come on board, too, because you're super smart, too. So, but all of these things just make it more fun. And like you, Al, I cannot sit, like, I couldn't still be doing C++ development on Windows 3.1, not just because it doesn't exist anymore, but because I would be so bored out of my mind. It would be so much the same old, like, oh, great. I got to draw a button. All right. Well, here's the coordinates for the button corners, and I got to make it 3D. So I got to draw some extra lines here and there and there. And then I got to handle the click event and okay, blah, blah, blah. So boring. So boring after so many years of doing it. But now, man, every industry I get to work with is so exciting. It's like, I have never worked in manufacturing before. This is great. I get to see the software side of manufacturing, and I get to work with banking. I get to work with insurance. All these different industries, they're super fun. And, it's more fun to learn about the industry than it is to work on the tech, but at the same time, get to do new tech. So that's fun too. So yeah, it's like every day I get up and I'm just, okay, not every day. Most days I get up, I'm super excited and happy to sit down, fire up the computer and start coding and working on the day's work, right? It's not punching a clock. And I have punched a clock. I have synchronized my watch to a time clock so that I knew exactly which second that time clock was going to switch so that I would get my full days of work. And I would not leave a second before that. And I would not get there a second before that either. Because, yeah, when you're on the clock, you're on the clock. Now, there are days where I get like, wait, what? Uh-oh. I worked too long. It's fine. Wait, I need to go eat supper now with my family. I better go back because I'm just having fun. And
I find that the seasons help me with that same exact problem. Like, it's hard in the summer because I can be down here. Like, the summer messes me up, and that happens a lot. Like, I'm working when it's still light out. In the winter, I've got an obvious indicator outside of the clock that says, maybe you've worked too much. Like, it's dark. Okay.
Right.
I get really screwed up in the summer sitting at my desk, completely losing track of time. And then looking at the clock, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Just having fun, right?
Yes.
All right. So that's sort of my backstory. It's boring. I went to college and got a job and have had a blast ever since. Kyle, I know you didn't go the traditional straight into consulting path.
Oh Lord, here we go.
But I think before you start, and one thing I think you'll probably mention is it may not be the clearest, straightest path, but no. as you've brought up, several times, just the skills that you've learned in previous industries that continue to be paramount in the job you do now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You always pick up something that you take with you, whether maybe it's just a lesson. But yeah, my first tech job started when I was 29 years old. And so up to that point was a series of jobs, and that often contain moments of, what the heck am I going to do with my life? Because I don't want to be a DJ forever, or a waiter, or a bartender, or a pizza delivery guy, or a forklift driver, or a mobile home salesman or a sales manager or a server manager at a restaurant, or a person that assembles hydraulic hose connectors, or a person that
sounds like a lifelong
works
dream,
at
Kyle.
selling items that people buy because they watched a show. The Sonic pet collar, the herringbone bracelet. Yes.
Nice.
Learning that people have addresses like the third house past the old tree down the schoolhouse road.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So there was a long winding road, but my computer career began when a guy I waited tables with started talking about the internet. And I said, what the heck is the internet? He's like, you haven't seen the internet? I'm like, no. Oh, you got to come over. So I went over to his house. He had a Packard Bell computer. I think those were the one of the only computers that came with an apology in the box.
We tried.
Fired up AOL and clicked around, showed me some stuff, and I went home, called the First Bank of Mommy, and said,
Nice.
I got to get one of these. I got to have a computer. Bought one, and I did pay her back for it.
Just last
week.
No interest.
And I bought a game, and the game didn't work. When I played multiplayer, the sound didn't work because it was an all-in-one sound card modem.
Yeah.
And so when your modem is kicked in, your sound is not.
Right.
Well, I need to hear all the screams of all the people when I played Diablo and all the ambient sounds. So I had to upgrade it. So I took it in, and the first place, because it had a thing on there, do not tamper with this or you're going to void your warranty.
Right.
So I brought it back to the place I bought it, and the guy at the counter took a razor blade and cut that sticker. And I went, hey. Needless to say, I took it to a different place and brought it up to the counter. I said, I need more memory and a different sound card and modem, and I want you to show me how to put it in. So we cracked it open right there, and he basically walked me through it. And that's the first time I worked on a computer. And then I was always tech support, though. Like wherever I went, whatever I did, I was always the person that learned everything and was the person you asked and had the answers. And so I was the guy that, quickly became the trainer and did training and that kind of stuff. So when I worked in restaurants, I trained servers all the time. And I trained them how to use a computer because I'd learned the computer right away and things like that. So I was actually waiting tables, and a couple of the people that were regulars at the bar worked in IT, and I talked to them all the time about computers. And then one day, one of the guys said, hey, we got this job opening. Would you be interested in doing tech support? And I said, yeah. I get to play with computers for a living. Yeah. Because by that point, I had built a computer for every member of my family.
Nice.
And was tech support. That's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Then you become tech support for it. Yeah. And they all came with a lifetime warranty, according to all those people. So I got into that, doing tech support, and the company grew to the size where I had to get an assistant, and we had to have really good processes in place and solutions and a depot of equipment and all the software we managed and all that kind of stuff. So then they decided to go public, and they had some deep cuts, layoffs, that kind of thing. So then I found myself out in the cold tried to start my own thing. I sold websites and did like odd computer jobs and things like that. And went back to waiting tables for a while. Got a job as a bench tech and working in the call center for a hardware manufacturer that did CD, DVD printers and duplicators and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Didn't like that. So then I got another job doing tech support. And then one day, my manager came to me and said, our parent company wants us to move to SharePoint. And that was the moment where everything changed.
The clouds parted.
Do you want to do the project? I said, first of all, yes. Second of all, what the heck is SharePoint?
Yeah. People are still asking that question.
Yeah. So I had to figure out how to implement it, how to bring everybody into the SharePoint world and how to line it up with what our business was doing and how we could use it. And, you know, we were in the kind of the merger acquisition growth period. And so we need our whole playbook online. Everybody's got to be able to manage their own piece of it. It's got to be accessible. Oh yeah, now we need to migrate because there's a new version. Okay. Well, during that process, it broke this whole big thing you built. So now you get to spend about 48 hours straight over a weekend rebuilding everything.
Nice.
And then I had done a year and a half of that and a lot of extra stuff. So I was doing a lot more than tech support. And I didn't like my raise. So I looked around, and within a week, I had an offer as a consultant to do SharePoint work. And so I went, okay. And I started down that path as a consultant. Worked at that first place for about a year and a half. Then I got wooed away by SDG and had to have lunch with Peter.
That's right.
And answer questions.
Where did you eat at?
Fuddruckers.
Okay. Cool.
Really good burgers. I miss that place. And good shakes. I said, I had heard about the clock problem that developers would get asked as part of their tech interview.
Weird. Never heard of that.
I said, first of all, I'm not doing the clock problem. I'm not a programmer. I'm a master configurator. So for some reason, they let me in the door. I think it's because Peter had a SharePoint project or something looming and didn't want to do it. I don't know why, but I was the first SharePoint hire. Did that for 10 years. And then we got big enough to where we needed a lot of IT help. And I had a strong background in tech support and all that kind of stuff and administration and all that. And I was one of our admins anyway for stuff. And so I raised my hand. I said, I want you to be my customer now. I've had all these other customers. I've worked in all these other industries. What if I come work for you guys? And they said, okay. So I became the IT guy.
Do you miss consulting?
I miss the there's a part of it where you're kind of a gunslinger, fighter pilot. You're out there. They send you out to get the job done. So you go out and do it. And you're sort of the players on the field when you're a consultant. And when you get into the operation side of things on the back end, now you're working on the sidelines and you're, personal trainer, coach, assistant coach, whatever, but you're not like out there on the front lines.
You don't get to throw the game ball anymore unless it's to one of the players, right?
Yeah. So there was a shift there. And just a whole different, it's a different business. and like it's, what can I say? I don't want to, it's a supporting role. It's a behind the scenes role.
Totally.
Danger Zone on your stereo isn't as exciting as when
Yeah.
you're going out to a client.
Well, it's not like, as a consultant, there's a performance piece of it. You want to be a performer. You want to you want to have strong skills and do a really good job and knock your projects out of the park. And there's that performance piece of it. And with that, there's kind of the desire to stand out. And at least it was for me. Like, oh, there's awards. I want that. They're saying nice things about people. I want that. I want people to say nice things about me.
Yeah.
I want to do well. Yeah. I want to be a rock star consultant. I want my clients to love me. I want, it's like filling all those voids inside that way. But now my focus is I want everyone else to be the rock star. I want to help everybody else shine and be that person and like remove obstacles and make sure that they have everything they need and everything works. And so it's become a shift, but I really like it. But I tell you what, sometimes I miss the, being out there and being part of that, those people that are on the front lines, being part of that team I do miss that part of it. And working for different industries, different customers, a company is like a person and they all have a personality.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And an industry, is unique from other industry. It's all like there's all these similarities between, from one insurance company to another, from one healthcare provider to another, one manufacturer to another. There's all these similarities. Everybody's got HR, everybody's got IT, that cuts across everywhere. But getting to know them and how they operate, and you take things away. Like sometimes you're privy to some pretty good knowledge that's really helpful. I built a system to house and drive a 5-year plan for a giant organization that's well known. And this plan was like secret. And it's like, I can't talk about it, but it helped me understand a lot about planning and, how to go from a kind of an idea to something that's running and working, and like what that process is. So you learn so much. You're helping your clients and you're adding value wherever you can. But you're also learning stuff. You're taking things away, and you have to work with new technologies all the time. I love new toys. I love figuring things out. I love puzzles. And it's like, okay, what cool thing can I do now? Oh, a single sign-on. That's tricky. But when it works, you're like, well, this is going to be cool.
It's so easy when it works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get help to do that, which is one of the things that's nice is I work for a company that has tons of knowledge resources to tap into.
Definitely.
And I try not to dump on them too much because they're out there in the front lines, just leaving it all in the field. So it's always an extra thing. But when you hit the bench between gigs, you are mine and I will put you to work. No, it's not like that. But
let that be a lesson
like
to you,
to
Chad. Don't hit the bench.
I do like to tap into knowledge. That was always one of the things I really wanted when I got into consulting was I want to work with other consultants that know way more than I do, so that I've got access to easy answers and help, and I don't have to spend so much time beating my head against the wall. And so I think,
Google.
Yeah, I think having other, like as the first SharePoint consultant, I didn't really have a big team I walked into of experts. But as time went on, having work friends, work buds that knew about stuff, and building relationships with other SharePoint consultants has been huge. Yeah. And then working together, like my last project, I worked with Ben for over a year, and that was awesome. Getting to work with other SDG consultants and teaming up
That's always fun.
is a blast. So a lot of my projects were solo though. So when I finally got a team project, because I'd always heard about all these teams and all the awesome stuff they were doing. And yeah, SharePoint consulting was different, a lot of shorter projects, and solo gigs, and hey, come in and fix this thing. And all we want you to do is fix this one thing, or migrations, just move stuff around. That was always a challenge. Yeah. So it's been quite a ride though, I got to tell you. And it took me a long time to realize I would never know it all. I was never going to become a master of everything. And it's like, so it's just, can I make progress? Can I figure things out? Can I do better? Can I still learn new things? And that's what's cool about the human brain, is you still have the capacity to learn like your whole life.
Yep.
And you use that muscle all the time when you're in tech.
Very true. Very true.
What was the question again that we asked him?
Do you miss consulting?
Why do you think I held back?
I think Kyle
held back
misses
the first
consulting.
half because I knew that the second half I was going to be talking a lot.
Oh. Okay.
What was the question? Yeah.
It was, do you miss consulting?
Yes. I think we know the answer now. Yes.
Oh, was that was a yes or no question?
Hey, I mean, I think you do a very good job of turning the question into answering it and then sharing where you want that question to have gone. So that works.
I answered many questions that wasn't even asked.
Yeah. Hey, just anticipating needs.
Yeah. Chad,
I feel like with silence that we can
wrap up.
Yeah.
wrap it
I
up.
feel like Chad has more to say though. I got the sense that there's something in there.
No, I mean, when we talk about how we started and how we got here, at the end of the day, it's really like, if you are a person that people want to work with, you're going to be just fine, right? Regardless
Right.
of your skill set or whatever else. Yeah, I mean, not to get too Ted Lasso about it, but if you come into the day with, just an ounce of positivity, and you're gonna be absolutely fine. And that's what I like about STG, is that without fail, there's nobody that I wouldn't love to work with.
Right.
I mean,
All right.
we've over 200 coworkers now, so I think maybe there's one, but I haven't seen them so far.
I got a question for Al and for Chad.
Yes.
Did you guys ever build, repair, replace, fix your own computers?
Al?
Occasionally. I would say when it was necessary and I had downtime, absolutely. When I didn't have time, or I was focusing on learning non-infrastructure pieces, then no.
I did a long time ago. I wouldn't do that again. But for me, starting out with Unix and Linux, building and tearing down and compiling kernels and figuring out drivers and all that stuff at the time seemed like useless knowledge, but it established some patterns in my nugget that I actually had to compile C code recently, and all the flags and all the tricks and all the goofy stuff that I did in the 90s was very recently relevant for me. And so, yes, I used to. Now I'm just a MacBook nerd, and I will never crack this thing open. I'm just going to.
Well, they make
Yeah.
it so scary now.
I would say I
Yeah.
think I've learned more from house repairs. Like that
Ooh.
has been far more relevant than just opening up my laptop and messing around with the different cards. So yeah, it's more just the, okay, how do I take a problem that I don't know how to solve, decompose it, and measure, okay, how close am I getting to the goal that I want, and how am I budgeting for it? And like that has been more useful to me in my consulting daily job, I would say,
Nice.
than yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious because Kyle and I both have been PC nerds in the past and gone.
Some might say still are.
Well, no, not me anymore. I'm kind of getting to that MacBook. Just buy it, don't mess with it. Buy some good solid hardware and live with it until you can't take it anymore.
Sure.
But
I will never have a living room computer that I don't build. Like the thought of buying, like I bought a laptop. I'm not going to build a laptop. Yeah, but a desktop that's going to sit on the floor as part of my entertainment center, like I would never even consider buying one. No, I think in terms of parts and pieces and all that. So
I think in terms of free time. And thank you, Mr. Jobs.
Well,
it's a hobby. It's
Apple.
still a hobby. It's still one I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
he converts your barbecue time into PC time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. I put my
Yeah.
DoorDash order in, and then I
Yes.
go work on my computer, and then I have barbecue.
That's right. So everybody has their own hobbies and takes up their free time with those things. Elle, it looks like you may or may not be into
I have
crafting of.
No shortage of things to do with my time behind me.
Yes, exactly. So
Just like
Yeah.
in the future, we need to have the Peter Lawrence walks us through 3D printing episode to get your hobby.
yes, 3D. Well, that's one of them for sure.
Yeah.
But so thank
So-
you. I was curious.
So I guess in conclusion, there are many paths.
Yeah.
There are many
there
ways
is no
to
one
get-
path.
yeah.
Mm-mm.
And you just keep going and trying things and doing things, and stuff works out.
And I
And
would
to
say there's
Chad's
not even
point-
one door.
No, there's not. But I think Chad makes a really good point that, be someone that other people like to be around.
Yeah,
That will
be cool.
exponentially increase
Yeah.
the number of doors that are open.
absolutely.
Just be cool,
Absolutely.
man. Be cool.
That is
Easy.
literally Team Norm's number one is always be cool. And if you
Nice.
don't know what that means, I'm sure there's another team that would love to have you.
Should just be ingrained, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, that was the SDG podcast. Thanks for listening. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.